From fights with NFL players to throwing somebody out of a window at a bar, these are 7 NBA players who can handle themselves in a street fight. Number 7. Malik Beasley. Beasley currently plays as a shooting guard for the Lakers, but back in 2019, he was playing for the Denver Nuggets. While living in Denver, Beasley got into a fight with a member of Denver's other big team, the Denver Broncos. That's right, things got nasty between Beasley and the Denver Broncos' Sua Cravens. NBA and NFL went head-to-head. What was it about? Well, as you might have guessed, it was about a girl. Is it just me, or are these beefs always about a girl? Her name is Montana Yao, an Instagram model who's now married to Malik. We don't know exactly what happened, but Cravens and Beasley got physical in the lobby of an apartment building. And after the fight, Cravens said he beat a ass that tried me. Since then, Beasley had actually done time in prison for an incident involving a firearm. Man, I wouldn't like to see Malik in a street fight. And he's certainly not the only NBA player who's willing to throw down. Number 6. Roy Hibbert. NBA players have to stay in top shape. After all, basketball seasons can be long and intense. But Hibbert decided to do something unusual to improve his performance. He joined an MMA gym, and it proved to be a great decision. His game got much better, and he even cut down his body fat from 15% to only 8%. As you'll see, most of the guys on this list have pretty big egos and attitudes, but Hibbert's actually quite calm and collected. Even though he hasn't been known to get into street fights, something tells me he's not a guy you want to mess with. Since we're on the topic of NBA scrappers, I wouldn't be any good at my job if I didn't talk about this next player. Number 5. Dennis Rodman. I can't talk about violence in the NBA without mentioning the name Dennis Rodman. Rodman's one of the greats of the sport, both because of his performance and his crazy antics. Facing Rodman in a street fight's a scary concept. I mean, the man's obviously insane. He picked a fight with the tallest player in the history of the NBA, George Morrison. George didn't seem interested, but Dennis persisted until Morrison lost his cool. Nobody's safe from Dennis Rodman, and I mean it. Rodman once famously kicked a cameraman right in the crown jewels. Yeah, that one was nasty. Dennis likes fighting so much, he even joined professional wrestling for a while. Back in 1998, Rodman teamed up with Hulk Hogan in a tag team match. Can you imagine running into those two in a dark alley? Rodman was even arrested in 2018 for slapping a man at a beach bar in Florida. Rodman was apologetic after the slaps, but that didn't stop the superstar from getting charged with battery. Speaking of fighters who aren't afraid to scrap, number 4, DJ Mbenga. DJ's a beast. The Belgian and Congolese player retired back in 2013, after a few good seasons with the Mavericks and the Lakers, as well as a few other teams. It's fair to say DJ's a scary guy. I mean, at 7 feet tall, it'd be hard to miss him in a crowd. But DJ has a few tricks up his sleeve. The ex-NBA player is a black belt in judo, and he's practiced the sport since he was 9 years old. DJ says judo helps him focus and relax, but I'm sure it'd be useful to control an opponent in a street fight, especially when you consider how strong he is. As a player, he weighed 245 pounds, and it definitely looked like none of that was fat. I suspect that with his strength and judo skills, DJ could bring out his inner Steven Seagal at a moment's notice and send most men flying. Number 3. Celtics legend Paul Pierce. Paul's known as the Truth, and the truth is, he's a very tough guy. So tough that he actually survived after being stabbed, not once, not twice, but 11 times. Man, it's a miracle to survive after being stabbed once. So, what happened? Paul had a dream career in Boston, but he also went through an absolute nightmare when he walked up to some girls in a bar one night. He couldn't possibly have imagined what would happen next. After an argument broke out with strangers, Paul was repeatedly stabbed, rushed to the nearest hospital with 3 stab wounds to the stomach, more in his back, and that's not all. He even had a bottle smashed in his face. Obviously, nobody thought Paul Pierce would survive the night. But amazingly, he did. And he didn't stop there. He went on to play every single game that season, playing better than he had before. Man, that's superhero material right there. I definitely wouldn't want to mess with the truth. Speaking of the truth, we're about to hit you with cold hard facts about two of the toughest NBA players on our list who can handle themselves in a street fight. And our number one pick might surprise you. But first, at number 2 is James Johnson. You know Johnson is the power forward for the Indiana Pacers. But he isn't just a forward, he's also a power striker. The man's dangerous. Believe it or not, Johnson has a second-degree black belt in karate. And he can karate chop the shit out of anyone who messes with him. But it doesn't end there. Johnson's an undefeated kickboxer. And did you know he's well-versed in MMA? That's right, James has been in 20 kickboxing fights and 7 MMA fights. That's an impressive record, especially when you consider that he's been able to juggle a successful career in the NBA all at the same time. Man, I feel lazy just talking about this guy. Obviously, his crazy physique helps. Johnson's 6'7", weighs 240 pounds, and is definitely heavyweight material. I mean, the guy could step into a ring with Tyson Fury and still look big. But I don't think we'll see Johnson stepping into the ring anytime soon. He's actually interested in pursuing a career in the UFC. Johnson says, "For me, walking onto the court and walking into the cage feels the same." Crazy! Alright, we're almost out of time. So, without further ado, number 1. Sir Charles Barkley. You probably know Chuck as an NBA All-Star legend from the 80s and 90s. He had one of the most impressive NBA careers in history. But believe it or not, the sophisticated Sir Charles loved a good fight back in the day. That's right, Sir Charles the Brawler, folks. On the court and on the streets. In 1991, Chuck was hanging out with his crew at a bar in Milwaukee when 3 big dudes decided to pick a fight with him. Barkley just wanted to leave, but the guys followed him outside. Big mistake. Chuck punched one of them in the face, hit him so hard that he broke his nose. Suddenly, the 3 goons realized picking on Sir Charles was a seriously dumb move. But that's far from Chuck's only adventure in a bar. In 1997, a man threw a glass of ice at Barkley, and Barkley hurled him through a window. Ouch. You live and you learn. So, who knows? Maybe the next UFC superstar could be an NBA player. There you have it, guys. Those were 7 NBA players who can handle themselves in a street fight.